Hi! Does calculating measurements for your handmade cards come easily to you? If so, great! If not, watch as I share several layering card measurements with you today. Some of my stamping friends are decent at eyeballing, but that isn't efficient if you want to make several of the same card. I'm going to make card layering measurements easy for you. I'm Shelley Godby, and for 22 years, I've been teaching you how to create hand-stamped smiles as a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. So be sure to watch to the end because I'm going to tell you how to get a PDF with all the measurements I show you today for free. A ruler is always within reach in my craft room, and actually I have several because I want to be able to find one very quickly so I can keep going. Now, for me, this is important. My ruler, it starts on the edge and ends on the edge. I need that so I can just butt up to the edge of my cardstock and measure. If it starts over a little bit, I don't want to have to take time to line that up. If you're used to that, okay, but for me, I just thought I'd point that out. That's really important. And I was looking for one on Amazon, and it's amazing how many start in about 1/8 of an inch. I found some that do start on the very edge, and then it'll give you multiples so you can have them scattered around too. So I thought, well, let's start with the basics of just cutting the card base, because you never know, there may be someone who's new to card making and they haven't done this, or they don't know how important all this is. So what I have here is my paper trimmer, and this is a beautiful thing. I can do up to 12 by 12 cardstock and have the blades out of my way. They'll slide to the top or the bottom. So we'll start with the card base, and I'm using 8.5 by 11 cardstock. And so I want to cut this in half, and half of 11 is 5.5. So we'll pick this up, slide my cardstock in. Here's 5, there's 6. That longest line in between, halfway in between, is the half. So at 5.5, I'm going to place my cardstock on that line, not next to it, but on it. And then the dark blade, the dark gray, that's the cutting blade. Pull that over it. And there we do. I have 2 card bases. All right, and so then this lighter gray blade, well, that's a scoring blade. And this puts a crease in the card, so when we fold it, it's not a wrinkly mess. So now I want to go, this is 8.5, and we have our ruler to confirm that. And so half of that is 4.25. So we know the half is that longest one in between. Well, halfway between the 4 and that longest is the second longest line. That's 4.25. We'll place this on here and then score it. Let me show you what we get. Look at that score line. So that allows us to fold it without it being all crinkled. I can show you the difference. Let's just go ahead and fold this one without that line, and you'll see, like, ooh. And it's just not nearly as nice. Actually, I did a pretty good job. Normally, when that's done, you can just look at it and it's like, why didn't you use the scoring blade? Anyway, so we'll go ahead and show you different layers for your handmade greeting cards. Boy, when I had these two laying down together, I thought, oh my goodness, the difference is so obvious. The nice clean score line and the one where I folded it in half. And look how that is just so much different than this. And I even bent it trying to fold it. Definitely use your scoring blade. Okay, so this is a half sheet of 8.5 by 11. As you can see, we're getting 2 card bases out of it. So scored in half. Here's the folded card size. And this is 4.25 by 5.5. And all the measurements I'll be giving you will be for portrait, but this is landscape. They'll still work. Okay, and this is I'm sure, the most common card size there is. Of course, you can do smaller and bigger, but this tends to be very, very common. And so, talking about common, the most common card layer is probably the 4 by 5 1/4. And so it's a 1/4 inch smaller. So 4 1/4, and this is 4 by 5 1/4. And that gives you an 1/8 inch border all the way around. That's a pretty decent border. So let me show you a trick that I do because, we're human. We're cutting everything by hand. And so to make sure things are nice and even, I will butt it up to one edge and then either the top or bottom and look and go, okay, that looks good. So I am good to go because neatness makes such a difference. You want to take the time to do your layers nice and neat. So I'm going to go ahead and now start showing you some others. So this one uses the 4, the most common size, I would say, by the 5 1/4 for the black. And then the white is 3 3/4 by 5. And so that adds very nice, another layer to pull out some color. And so there are times where you want just a hint of color. And so I will then keep this white the same size at 3 3/4 by 5, but only add an 1/8 inch. Well, that 1/8 inch, this is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And that little hint of color, not so bold. I really like doing that. The ace, well, that can be a little trickier, but you learn. All right, so let's go out to, because we said this is 3 7/8. Here's our half, right? The longest one. And then between those two, 3 3/4, that 1/8 is halfway in between there. So not quite 4, we're just coming back an 1/8. You get better as you do this. All right, so our next one, I stepped it down, and our black layer is now 3 3/4 by 5, making the inside 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. And so that just gives us a wider border around. And I really like doing that sometimes. My image isn't as big and it frames it more. And then we'll do again, stepping down, keeping the white the same, 3 1/2 by 4 3/8, but giving that little hint. So we've got 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. And don't worry, at the end I'm going to tell you how to get the PDF absolutely for free with all of these measurements. And then I stepped it down again. And so our black is 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. And so see, it's that 1/4 inch difference to give an 1/8 all the way around, 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. Then when we step this down, look, that little hint. I love the little hint. And so the black now is 3 3/8 by 4 5/8. All right, and one more. Step this down again. And we've got, for the white, 3 by 4 1/4. So that 1/4 inch bigger is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. Using the same size of white. There we go, that little hint. There are times where that'll just feel too bold, and this is just right. And so this is 3 1/8 by 4 1/8. I'm going to show you a card in just a second that I made with this. Every card making video, even if it's showing you how to cut layers, needs a finished card. And I have one here for you using the two-tone Flora stamp set and two-tone Flora dies. Look at that. See that beautiful? It looks almost like lace from the flowers. And then we've got the open dies to cut out all of these other elements. It just is so pretty. And this uses that last template that I showed you, where the white is 3 by 4 1/4. And then that only an 1/8 inch around, so 1/16 on every side. And so in just a second, I'm going to tell you how to get the PDF with all these measurements to make things easier for you absolutely for free. I've created a PDF with all of these card layering measurements that'll be an easy reference, and it's free to all of my mailing list subscribers. And if you aren't one, well, you can become one today And that's for free too. Just simply go to www.thestampersinsider.com to subscribe. And you'll get an email asking you to verify your email address. You need to confirm that to get on the list, and then you will automatically receive my PDF absolutely for free. So go now to www.thestampersinsider.com to subscribe. It's your free stamping source for inspiration, information, and ideas. I'm Shelley Godby, teaching you how to create hand stamped smiles. And be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.